very interested in this presentation. So, you have the word.
How many minutes do I have? Can I talk as long as my former student did? Half an hour? 1 hour? Yeah. Half an hour? Yeah. First of all, it's my privilege and honor to share the views of WHO and ILO. I discussed it with my ILO colleague to represent ILO here as well. With you, with the excellent researchers in this institute, and also important stakeholders in the country and the neighborhood countries. And I really admire the organizers to prepare this event, which will be a very good catalyst for the region, for the former Soviet Union countries, Russian-speaking countries, on this topic. And it's not easy. It's very emotionally challenging work, because we know so many people are dying of this with so much pain. And when we see there are not much action going on, it's very difficult. But Women's Bureau for Human Future and NAMA 86 and other NGOs, also institutes, stakeholders, very courageously move forward to do something about this one of the most important public health problems in the world. I will just start with a brief information about the global and European situation of global asbestos-related diseases, and also review scientific evidence. Definitely, we don't have time to go into details of scientific evidence, but I can tell the official, formal opinion of UN agencies, namely UNDP, ILO, and WHO, scientific evidence, and how ILO and WHO responded with that evidence, and summarize my presentation with some recommendations. There's a mention about different types of asbestos. I want to show this slide. What are we talking about when we are talking asbestos? We are talking about chrysotile. Historically, from 1900 until 2003, so basically all throughout 20th century, this amount of asbestos was used according to the United States Geological Survey, quite reliable data. According to that data, 96% of all asbestos used in the 20th century was chrysotile, the topic that we are talking about. And also, because of the early signal of cancer, crystolite, amosite, antophyllite, so-called antiballs, were banned already in 70s and 80s. In most countries, from 1990s, no antiball asbestos, those crystolite, amosite, antophyllite, they were not used. Only chrysotile was allowed in many countries. And then in the former Soviet Union countries, it is mainly produced and also used until now. This graph shows the amount of asbestos. Again, I'm telling you, 96%. Most of the asbestos was chrysotile from 1900 to 2006. And then you see the peak around the 1970s. That's the time many researchers remember telephone, kind of a hero in this study. Researchers found there are increased lung cancer, especially among the smokers. It's not new that smokers have higher lung cancer, even though they work same as other workers. And then many countries stopped using, especially empty bowls from that time. And around 1990s, especially European Union and Western northern countries, Southern Island countries, America, Canada, they basically stopped using asbestos anymore because they knew the danger for human health and for the economic burden. A lot of litigation. Lawyers are very, very busy in America and other countries to help the victims get the payment, and also lawyers from the rich too. So this is big business. But anyway, this shows that around the 2000, hit the bottom, and now we are increasing trend from 2000. And these are mainly produced in the former Soviet Union countries, including Russia and Kazakhstan, also Canada, Brazil, and other countries. Yes, this shows the distribution of the production of crystallized asbestos as of 2005. The green thing is 1 billion ton is produced, and the others all together we are producing. The world is producing 2 million tons. So and Kazakhstan is also producing quite a lot. And this produced asbestos is not only used in Russian-speaking countries, but also exported to India, China, Brazil, as was mentioned by our peptide association here. Next, please. So, WHO estimated how many people are exposed to asbestos around the world. This story about these acronyms. WPRO means West Pacific, increasing to China. SEARO, CRO includes India. Euro-C includes Russia, Kazakhstan, and other CIS countries, including Ukraine. Euro-A is the European Union and Western Europe. And at the bottom, Euro-B is the former Yugoslav countries and Southeast Europe. So we estimate the total number, and then there were 125 million people exposed, and 80 million are in Europe. If you see the picture, that's the recommended method of working with asbestos. That's what actually Sasha mentioned. You need to have a power air supply to work in the air, because any small amount of fiber can initiate the mutation which can lead to cancer. So this is so-called controlled use. Do you think these 18 million people can use this method? That is so-called controlled use. It's impossible. Anyway, 18 million people are exposed to asbestos in Europe. And based on the scientific evidence, now doctors and researchers all use the word ARD. If you meet occupational doctor and say ARD, they don't quickly know, everybody knows. This kind of so-called household name, ARD, asbestos-related diseases. These are lung cancer, mesothelioma, asbestosis, pleural collapse, thickening and effusion, laryngeal cancer, ovarian cancer. These are confirmed diseases, and there are a few other diseases not yet confirmed. That is limited. There are some good studies, but there are so many unconfirmatory studies. So still we are collecting the data by IARC, International Agency on Research of Cancer. I want to show this patient. These diseases are extremely painful, especially mesothelioma. Mesothelioma is a tumor of the pleura. Pleura is the cover of lung. Imagine you have a small hole in your lung, and you have to live with it, and it causes effusion, so-called exudate. Water is collecting in the lung. So patients say it's like living under the water. Because you cannot get enough oxygen. And they use, of course, the oxygen. But imagine, you are diagnosed with mesothelioma, your life is 6 months left, suddenly you have to prepare your death, and it's painful life. That is the memory of the patient and families. And imagine, this happens tens of thousands cases every year. The tissue is a patient's lung. The black part is real lung. The white part is the tumor. In the end, patient died like that. The tumor, when it's diagnosed, usually say small plum size, small orange size, and then it quickly grows, and then it basically invades all lung, and then within usually 6 months they die. And WHO estimated the number of cancer deaths, and overall it was 2004 data. Overall, because of the lung cancer and mesothelioma, 100,000 patients are dying. They are not workers, as I mentioned. There's no period from the initial planting of cancer cell to death. Diagnosis. First problem. Cancer cell starts from one cell. One cell somehow is mutated, and then even though by the immunity and genetic characteristics, many initial mutations are cleaned up, recover. But if you are unlucky, if some people have some bad genetic vulnerable trait, then that one cell divides up, and then 30 years, 40 years later, that one cell, which is very difficult to see even on the microscope, becomes the size of the baseball, and then kills the patient. And so we have 100,000 deaths every year out of 177,000, or almost 200,000 cancer deaths. So among the occupational and environmental cancers, asbestos kills more than half of the people. This graph was already shown by Alexandra actually, because this graph is so famous. Can you imagine? England, the United Kingdom, they have more than 4,000 mortalities death every year from asbestos. Lawyers are very busy because the system is more like a case-based system, as you know. Lawyers will know very well. So whenever there's a case, they hire a lawyer and sue the company, and then they are paid like £1 million, things like that. Every year, more than 4,000 people. And if you see the trend, the peak was around 1960, right? The use of asbestos, heavy use, because they didn't know anything about the problem. And then when it was known, 1960s and 70s, there's the contribution of Dr. Selico. When they knew, they reduced the use, and finally stopped, totally banned around 2000, the year. Imagine, in the year 1958, this much was used. Do you think there were any cases of mesothelioma at the time? This time, yes, some of it, still pressure is heavily used, but still not noticed. Only about 40 years later, even 50 years later. Imagine this is 2016, and then it is 2010. Around 50 years later, we see the peak, and still the number is increasing. British people are willing to see the top, the plateau. When it will stop? When will we see the reduction? And some people say only by the end of the 21st century, maybe, or 2050, maybe all people died, and then all people who have a history of exposure will die away and will disappear. It caused a lot of human pain, also social cost. And imagine the family, how they will suffer. And this X-ray shows the pleural effusion of mesothelioma patient, every death, each death leaves a very painful life left behind the disease and sad memory to the family. That's why we become quite emotional when we talk about asbestos. Sorry about that. In Germany, it was also mentioned, as you know, Germans are very strict in every way. They follow the law, and then Germany has a national insurance, unlike UK. So it's much more difficult to get compensation in Germany. Still, every year, new cases of asbestosis. Basically, asbestosis means because asbestos dust is in your lung becomes fibrotic, very hardened. That's not cancer. But of course, if you have asbestosis, you have a chance of getting cancer than other people. Lung cancer, new cases almost 4,000. Mesothelioma, more than 1,000. And this total death, around 1,500 people die every year. They are paid a lot by the insurance company. And of course, while they survive, they get some pension. But who will want money when your life is only 6 months left with such a pain? 2 million euro cannot compensate all the loss. This is what's going on in Germany, also in UK, and I can go on and on. If I get data from Italy, same. The previous slide, please. The previous one. This pattern, use of asbestos in the middle of the 20th century, and then the increase of the mesothelioma in the 21st century is everywhere in the Western countries. I heard that WHO, ILO, maybe many Western researchers are sold to the asbestos substitute companies, industries. They are just talking this because they don't know. There's hidden interest of the substitute. No, please. We have nothing to do with the asbestos substitute industry. Only because we see this phenomenon. We want to prevent this happen from this problem from happening in other regions. When we had a meeting in Bishkek last year, our German director of Ministry of Environment, Dr. Alexander Nies, really appealed. We, Germany, had a very bad experience. We are wrong. We should have started very early. Now we are paying still billions of euros. And appealed, please don't repeat this mistake. And I would like to repeat the same. Many Western countries were very stupid. They waited until evidence is so obvious. If they acted earlier, they could have saved a lot of human sufferings and money. And this study was published last year in the environmental health perspective. So, researchers in Japan correlated the cumulative asbestos use, the amount of amount of asbestos used in the country for 50 years, from 1920 until 1970. Okay, so that was finished in 1970, 40 years ago, right? Now, 40 years ago, that amount to use. Then 40 years later, is there any plant coming out? Any result consequence? Surprisingly, yes. Who will deny this increase of asbestos use? It is correlated with the increase of the instance. The mesothelioma case, these are reported in WHO. It's not someone's just reporting. Ministry of Health, biostatistician, expert, reported in WHO through usually IR. And USA, they heavily used for shipbuilding during the World War II, and then you see they are the most suffering people. And followed by UK, Great Britain, Germany, Japan, Italy, all these. And I was surprised that there were some wishful expectation that maybe Latvia, Estonia, Poland, Slovakia, those countries, former Soviet Union influence, may not have the problem because they used the Russian first time. Yes, it will be great. if that's true, I'm sorry. In fact, Lithuania, Estonia, they all show the consequences. And these data are reported to WHO. Nobody is, manipulation. And why there is no data about Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan, China? Because there is no reported case to WHO. It's all bottom, zero. Russia, Kazakhstan, China, India, Thailand. So what did they do? What did the researcher do? With the new data, they applied the same curve. Is it very bad science? I don't think so. If you see so many countries have that relationship, it is safe that those people living in Russia, Kazakhstan, China, India, Thailand are Homo sapiens. If they are exposed to asbestos that much, maybe they have same problems. So they calculate number, hidden cases, not reported to WHO. Around 40,000 people might have had mesothelioma. We are not talking about lung cancer or other, mesothelioma only. So that is the scientific evidence published last year. So WHO worked with many experts to review all the evidence, and this is one of the latest review by International Program for Chemical Safety. This is a tripartite program: UNEP, UN Environment Program, ILO, International Labour Organization, and World Health Organization. Three groups work together with the best scientists in the world. And this is the conclusion. First, all forms of asbestos, including versatile, are human carcinogens. Second, no safe threshold level of exposure has been identified for carcinogen effects of versatile. Three, safer substitutes exist for all uses of versatile. There is no excuse that only asbestos can be used for this job. No, they couldn't find any specific work that we cannot find any substitute. Number four, exposure of workers and other users of asbestos-containing products is extremely difficult to control. You remember that white, astronaut costume? We cannot give out to all workers like that. Five, asbestos abatement is very costly and hard to be carried out in a completely safe way. Asbestos abatement means to remove asbestos from the building or some facilities. It is very difficult once asbestos is used. Well, for a few years it may be okay, but it decays and then it comes to the air, to the soil. Especially children are the first victim usually. So these 5 conclusions were made in 2002. Next, please. And more recently, in 2009, International Agency for Research on Cancer assessed again and again, and made the same conclusion. All types of asbestos are carcinogenic to humans. And ILO in 2006, based on this new evidence, confirmed again the elimination of future use of asbestos and the identification and proper management of asbestos currently in place are the most effective means to protect workers from asbestos exposure and prevent future asbestos-related diseases and death. And also, it warned to the countries that ILO Convention 162 should not be used to provide a justification for or an endorsement of the continued use of asbestos. This was necessary because some countries said that, okay, we joined the ILO Convention 162, that means chrysolite should be banned, but chrysotile can be continued. No. Because of that misuse of convention, ILO made a special statement that it should not be used as justification. Just first recommendation, where it stands. Next, please. And WHO Global Plan of Action was also adopted. Basically, the original text was WHO will do global campaigns for elimination of asbestos-related diseases. But asbestos-producing countries came to WHO and then wanted to put this additional sentence, bearing in mind a differentiated approach to regulating in various forms, in line with relevant international legal instruments and the latest evidence for effective interventions. So for WHO, okay, already in many countries, chrysotile and other types of asbestos have different limit values. So no problem. It didn't mean that chrysotile cannot be banned, anything like that. But this text was later misused by some countries as if WHO endorsed continued use of chrysotile. No, that's wrong. Our lawyers in Geneva was considering to fight back, but we are waiting for more evidence of misuse of WHO statement. But I'd like to warn that those who misrepresent WHO resolution should stop that practice. I'll hurry up, sorry. And so WHO and ILO prepared some statement to clarify. Again, with this document, some Russian document, also prepared an outline of development of national programs for elimination of asbestos-related disease, so that countries can quickly launch a program to deal with this problem. And as you know, WHO is busy with non-communicable disease, cancer prevention. And when WHO prepared the cancer control guidelines, the core recommendation was included. Number one, stop using all forms of asbestos. And also, last year, when we prepared global status report on non-communicable disease, also effective strategies for prevention.